Hi, this is Jadu from Property Framework, and today I want to talk about the Perth property market. Now, this market has had about 40 to 50% growth over the last 2 to 3 years, and the question is, has it really reached its peak, and is it going to just stabilize or even start declining? But if you look at the data and some of the data trends, this is far from the truth. And what is going to happen in Perth is that prices are going to keep up moving forward. And the reason is there is a massive imbalance between supply and demand on the ground right now. And even if you look into the future, there is that mismatch between supply and demand. The demand is increasing and supply is dwindling. So, which means that this market looks very promising over the next 3 to 5 years. In fact, it is one of the strongest capital city markets in the country and one of the best places in Australia to invest right now. So, if you have been a bit skeptical about Perth, then I hope that the data that I'm sharing in this video would change your mind and make you think about investing in Perth. So, let's look at the data. Let's now start off by understanding what's happening on the ground in Perth, like what's the current situation, the market pressure, the rental market situation in Perth, and then move on to what we expect would happen in the future. So, if you look at this graph, this is showing the median number of days it takes to sell a property in Perth and also the listings in Perth from March 2013 till now. So, what is very obvious from this graph is that the listings is clearly reducing over time, and the number of days it takes to sell a property is drastically reduced over the last couple of years. So, for example, in September 2018, it took about 48 days to sell a property in Perth. Right now, it's less than 12 days. In September 2018, there were 12K properties listed on the market. Right now, about 3K properties are listed on the market. So, a massive reduction in the supply and a huge reduction in the number of days it takes to sell a property. So, this is why prices are really moving forward right now because there is very little stock and a lot of demand for this stock from first home buyers in Perth and investors from the East Coast. Now, if you look at the rental side of things, a very similar picture can be seen. So, the number of days it takes to rent a property has been reducing over time. In September 2017, it used to take about 40 days to rent out a property. Right now, it's close to 10 days. It's a massive reduction, and that increasing rental demand. Also, the rents have increased significantly from 352 per week to around 550 per week now. So, this market does have shortage of rental stock, and that is why rents will keep on moving forward. So as you can see, the sales market and the rental market are looking really strong, and that's the current situation in Perth. Now let's move into what I think would be happening in the future. So what we're going to do here is look at new supply, new builds that are coming on the market, and compare that with the population growth in Perth and what we can observe there. So if you want to look at supply, then the best one of the best metrics to measure is the building approvals. And as you can see, building approvals have been trending low since February 21. As of June 2023, it is in the lowest it has been since June 2013. So the number of new properties going to come on the market is reducing over time. Okay. If you look at this other graph here, this is the number of dwellings that have been already completed. The first one was the approvals. This one is looking at the ones that are already completed. And you can see a very obvious trend here. In 2016, early 2017, there were about 7,000 builds that were completed per quarter. Right now, that's hardly hitting 3K. So less than 3,000 properties being built per quarter right now. So not many properties are getting completed. That means that even though there are, you have properties in the pipeline, they're not getting completed. And that's because of certain issues in the construction industry. There's labor shortage, materials, the cost of materials have increased. It's, the time taken to build a house is just blown out. It's not no longer 6 or 8 months. It could go on for a couple of years sometimes. And even developers don't sometimes see the profits that they could make because construction costs are high and they're not making profits. So building approvals are low. And because of the issues in the construction industry, the number of houses actually built are also very low. Okay, so supply of new houses is very low. That is what you can see from these two graphs. It's going to be very low moving forward. Okay, now how does the demand side of things look like? But before we go on to that, let's also just look at one more chart here. This is the construction loan commitments, the number of people who have taken construction loans to build a house. And that is following a very similar trend. Since 21, that has been trending very low, and it is the lowest it has been since 2005. So, not many people taking loans to build a property because not many people are building property, and that's matching with what we saw in the earlier two graphs. Okay, now let's look at the demand side of things. Now, if you look at the population, this shows all the different states, and the highest growth over the last year was Western Australia at 2.27%, and that's much higher than the other states. Okay, and 62,000 people actually came into Western Australia. Net interstate migration is at 10,593. So 10,000 people moved from within Australia into Western Australia. And that's the second highest after Queensland. So you can see a change here. People are starting to move into Western Australia. Okay, there's a shift in the behavior of people. So why are people moving into Western Australia? Because the economy is looking good. There are a lot of job opportunities. It's very affordable. It has all the facilities and infrastructure in place, and it offers a good lifestyle. So those are the reasons why there's a shift in trend. And now let's look at some numbers really closely. Now, 60,000 people coming into Western Australia. We saw earlier that the number of new builds that were completed last year in 2022 was only 15,000. If you say that 2.5 people live in a house, then the 15,000 houses would only accommodate up to 40,000 people. So, what about the remaining 22,000 people? They are going to compete for the stock, which is just dwindling over time. So there's hardly any stock, but more and more people coming into Western Australia. So to put it in simple terms, 10 people are coming in, but they only have about 3 or 4 properties there for them to live. And that's going to keep on putting pressure on houses because this trend is not going to change anytime soon. And therefore, Perth property prices will definitely be moving upwards. Now, let's look at another chart here. Median house prices in Perth as compared to the average of the other five capital cities. Now, for a long time, since 1988, Perth has been tracking very close to the average of the other five cities. Up to 2012, it's almost neck to neck. It's only since 2012 that there has been that slight drift that's happening here. So what's going to happen is that Perth will eventually catch up to these five capital cities, and that means it's going to have a lot of growth moving forward. Okay. And the last chart here is about the affordability. Now we're looking at all the five capital cities, and the lower that you are on this y-axis, the better the affordability is. So this is comparing median house prices to average annual wages, and Perth is looking the best here. The wages are so high, and median house prices are pretty low. So affordability is looking really good in Perth. So this is the perfect storm, right? No, not many houses available. There's a strong demand for houses for people coming into that area. There's a strong demand, and these houses are really affordable. So there is no way that this market could move except for moving up. So price growth is almost certain for the next couple, 2, 3 years in Perth. Now, if you are a first home buyer or if you're a renter, it's not really good news for you because house prices are going to go up in value. It might be hard for you to buy your first home. And as a tenant, it might be difficult for you to find a rental property because There's a shortage of rental stock. There's a general shortage of housing stock available. But as an investor, if you can get into the market now, that means price growth is almost guaranteed for you, and you'll make a lot of money in this Perth market. So this Perth market hasn't done, its growth. It's nowhere near the end of its growth cycle. There's still a lot of growth left in this market, and this market really looks promising for the next 2 to 3 years.